Okay.
Warmed up, ready to go?
I guess.
La, 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 la. All right. Oh, ready? Oh, hi. Thank you for joining us. This is our podcast. This is The Creatures of the Night, and I'm Chris.
And I'm Wendy.
Sorry, you just caught us right in the middle of us having a conversation. How dare you sneak up on us like that? Like I should have known.
So nosy.
So Wendy knows I went to the PAX East convention. Of course, when this podcast comes out, it's going to be like eons after the fact. But it was fun for me and not so much a gamer like the rest of my family.
You should probably explain
what it is.
Yeah, does PAX stand for something?
Actually, it does, but that's not going to make any sense to anybody unless they know. So there's this, group, something that came out on the internet a long ass time ago, and they're called Penny Arcade. And I don't know exactly what they did. I don't know if they put out video games or if they just put out news about video games, but they blew up. They're huge. So then their events became the Penny Arcade exhibit or something. So that's what PAX stands for. But it's not just them, clearly, because they have everybody there.
But they're like the founders of it. So that's how it's gotten its name. And it's just all about gaming, right?
All about gamings and board games and arcade games. But arcade games aren't actually in the arcade shells. It's all computerized now. They have VR gaming. They're rolling out all of the, if you know of a specific game that's going to be rolling out a release, Animal Crossing was doing its release while we were there. And the new Doom was rolling out its release, while we were there. So we got to kind of preview those things at this exhibit, which, by the way, anybody can preview those because it's all over fucking YouTube. But we had to go and stand around all the people also. So, we got the experience.
Yeah, he got to play some of them is what I saw from the
that's
pictures
true.
and stuff. He gets to firsthand experience it and move around. And because, so I'm not a gamer. I like their video games, but I have terrible hand-eye coordination. So I suck at their games.
I know. Tell me about your Walking Dead experience.
Oh my God. So both my kids chipped in and got VR. And I kind of been watching what games he's playing, and I'm like, that looks boring. That looks stupid. So what?
Right.
So then he got the Walking Dead game, and I'm like, okay, let me see that one.
Now you're talking about language.
Chris, I swear to God, somebody should have been recording it. When they first put those goggles on my head, I was just fucking blown away. I'm like, where am I? It's so weird because you hold your hands up and you're holding your hands up and then you're looking down at your hands, but you don't see your hands. You see these other hands.
Right.
I'm just sitting here astonished looking at my fucking hands. And then they're like, there's a zombie coming up on you, Mom, by the way. Do you want to take care of that? And I'm like, okay, what do I do? Where's my weapon? They're trying to show me how to do it. Then I'm holding it. I drop it. I don't realize you're supposed to hold the button the whole time.
Yeah,
so
right.
I drop my sword. These zombies come upon me. They're eating me. They're attacking me. It's so real. I back into a wall and I'm screaming basically. And I'm just like, make it stop because I don't even know how to get out of the game.
Shit,
and so
man.
my oldest has to come and push the buttons for me and get me out of there because I was terrified. But then he put me on a training course.
Oh, good.
He didn't realize I needed the super beginner before we moved forward. So on the training course, I got to take it slow, walk around, look around, because you're in a cemetery in New Orleans.
That's awesome.
He didn't tell me either. As soon as I get out of my little safety shelter or whatever, I'm seeing this cemetery and it just looked so familiar to me that I was
wow.
Is this in New Orleans? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, I just want to walk around. Can I just do that?
Yep.
But no, you have to kill a few zombies, which I only managed to kill one before I got eaten alive. So
even in the trial run, you can't just walk around and be like, cool, now let me just go find that haunted place.
Only to a certain extent. You can only get around the graveyard so far before it's okay, now you need to go do something.
Oh, that's a bummer. I think that they would speak to more people like us if they just allowed us to ghost hunt on these games or, check out haunted abandoned places. I mean, that would be perfect. Please.
Yes, they need to develop that. And actually, you know what? My kid was telling me, you can go on Google Maps or Google Earth in the VR.
What? In the VR? No way.
He said he put in our old address and then he was in front of our old house.
Wow.
But it's only outside. You can't really get in it. But it made me think, I was like, does that mean that I could say Provelia Island?
Right.
Around there? Is there a Google Earth for that?
No kidding.
Can I go to the Tower of London or to the Eiffel Tower or something like that? And he goes, oh, I don't know. I just went back to Tennessee. You don't know. You have the world at your fingertips.
Right. You're automatically let's go there. Man, I know now if I don't hear from you while on texting, I'm like, where's Wendy? what's going on. I think I know where you're going to be behind that VR set, because that sounds awesome. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
Wow.
But they have to show me everything and babysit me through it because, like I said, the hand-eye coordination, I don't know what I'm doing.
It's a whole new world.
Mm-hmm.
It is. The first time I did the VR, it was a demo Oculus Rift, and that's just one of the headsets. But it was a roller coaster game. And I have to tell you this because my husband always says, well, you forgot to mention that you had a few glasses of wine. Okay, so I'll go ahead and tell you. I had a few glasses of wine. I put the VR headset on and we start going on this roller coaster and I thought I was about to vomit. I'm like, take it off. Ugh, I get motion sickness anyways, like reading in cars and stuff. But this was like, it seemed like it was actually pretty cool, but I couldn't handle it. So I don't know if I would have been better had I not been drinking, but they have Resident Evil upstairs and I haven't played it yet. And I love the zombies. I love them.
But do you love getting eaten by them? Because it was so real. Like, you know it's not, but at the same time, it's not like when you're trying to play a video game and if you're like me, you're bad at it. And so you're getting attacked all the time and stuff. Yeah. So you're used to like, now they're swarming me. You know, I give up. No, they're like this time though, they're in your face.
Yeah.
They just seem so real and their teeth are coming at you. And it's just like, I don't want to ever do this.
No, it's actually interesting that we started talking about the zombies because I had a dream last night that I was being chased by zombies. Isn't that weird? Brandon and I were both at this abandoned building, and it's an abandoned building that I know, but I'm walking up to it and my husband is like, you're not supposed to get within 15 feet of the abandoned building. Read the sign. And I'm like, zombies. And I'm trying to get in the building. He's like, no. And I'm like, get your ass over here. So we both get in the building and there's other people in there. And I'm like, I told you we had to come in here. There was like zombies and everything. So needless to say, I didn't get eaten. And those zombies were really slow. Not like they are in the movies. They were like so dead. Like so dead.
What's that one with Brad Pitt where they were like super fast? Those zombies were insane. I don't remember the name of it. So
I don't either.
Take that out.
Was that okay?
It's a good one, though, but it's a totally different idea of zombies. And it's just like, oh, please don't let them be like that. I am really going to lose that game.
No kidding. I can't even find good enough shoes to walk around PAX East all day long. What am I going to do to run away from zombies? Damn. So we had only taken off Thursday for PAX East, and we had some good weather last weekend. And my husband texted me while we were at work, and he's like, oh, man, this weekend it's going to be up into like the 40s. We should do something.
Break out the shorts.
I know. Oh, my God. I didn't break out the shorts, but this is going to so nerd me out. I'm so sorry, but I broke out the Crocs.
Your favorite ghost hunting shoes. No.
I know. It's so true. And I actually went outside without socks and it felt so good. But he had texted me and was like, we should go and do something. You know, is there anything that you want to go and check out? And I'm like, yeah, actually there is, but it's kind of far away. So I just expected him to be like, well, tough shit. That's not happening. What else you got planned, you know? So he said, how about instead of us doing this weekend, since we're off Thursday, let's take off Friday then too, and we can make, you know, a day out of it. And I'm like, it's the last day of the month, dude. I don't know if I can do that, but I'll see. So I talked to the girl that I work with, and she don't care. She's pregnant and happy, and she's going on vacation too. She's like, do whatever you want. I don't care. I'm like, okay, then. So we took off Thursday. We went to PAX East. My son had a fucking blast. Brandon had a blast. I had fun. I'm not trying to downplay it. It was a lot of fun for me too. It's just that, you know, it was a gaming convention, but it was a lot of fun. And then Friday, we drove to Connecticut. I finally made it back there. I was so excited. I had quite the list of things that I had to check off. Now, a lot of them I couldn't actually go into because there, you know, no trespassing signs all over the place. And like I had already mentioned, my husband is a super stickler for rules, most likely why I dreamt about him and the abandoned building and the zombies and us going in anyways. So of all the places that I have on my list to go and visit in Connecticut, these are the places that we got to check off on our list. I don't even remember how many podcasts ago it was, but I was like, yeah, it's like 3.5 hours there, 3.5 hours back. So we spent a lot of time in the car. We, first of all, made it to this little town, and I had a gluten-free calzone.
Ooh.
And it was divine. Apparently some lady comes in, she makes the gluten-free dough every morning, and then she pieces out. Or he, I don't know who it is, but that's all he or she does is make the gluten-free. This is in a old firehouse too in Connecticut. It's like legit. It's a brick up building. Clearly they've revised it on the inside because there's no like pole or anything for them to slide down, but you're eating in an old timey firehouse and you're eating some gluten-free delicious goodies. So that was the best part. Then we're driving off to the first location, which is the Norwich State Hospital. And it's, no kidding, 15 minutes down the road. Around the bend, you see this river and you see houses along the river on both sides. And it's a windy day and it's cold too. Damn, it was so cold. But the water's kind of whipping and it just has a really eerie, creepy vibe to it. So we're driving around the street in Connecticut. It's very winding and it's old. So there's old buildings everywhere. We drive around downtown and we go up through the hills. It gets very hilly. And then all of a sudden I see it. I see the abandoned building right there. And I'm like, oh my God, there it is. And Brandon's like, well, that's weird because it says it's down the hill. And I'm like, that's it. And we go around the corner. There's another abandoned building. And there's another abandoned building. And like 5 abandoned monster buildings later, there's this fucking humongous cemetery too. And it's a Hebrew cemetery. And I'm like, park. So we park right there. He won't let me go anywhere near the abandoned monster building, but there's a cemetery that butts up to it. So I can get in the cemetery and take my little pictures, and they're the best pictures I've ever taken. Oh my God, I cannot wait to share these. They're beautiful. But the Hebrew cemetery is one I've never seen before in my life. It was so neat. Almost every stone there had thousands of stones on top of the stones themselves. I don't know if that's a Hebrew tradition where they come and they visit and they bring a stone, but you know how ghost hunters do or paranormal investigators do. They usually bring an offering to whomever they're speaking to. They usually put a stone or coins, crystals, dolls, you'll see. But these gravestones were covered in stones on top of them. It was really a unique, cool place. So I didn't get to go in any of those buildings, but I was so excited to find, I didn't even realize that there was still like this many of these buildings standing. I guess at one time, Norwich State Hospital was like 30 something buildings altogether.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's sprawling all over an Indian reservation. So Mohegan something reservation. So there's been fights. You know, the National Historic Preservation Society is trying to keep these buildings up because, again, they don't want to see them demolished. Yes, there's some dark history there. They don't want to associate with it. They just want to keep the buildings. And the city's like, there's asbestos in them, so we ain't doing shit with them. Don't you worry. But Mohegan Sun is a casino resort, and apparently they're thinking about putting something out there. So those buildings might not be there for too much longer.
Oh, that sucks. Because you know they'll put something like god awful too. They got casino money. They could probably renovate these buildings and try to keep some of the historical pieces, but they'll just be like, nah, bitch, put a big ass modern hotel there.
Right. That's unfortunately, that's what the huge concern is online, especially for the people that have been visiting that Hebrew cemetery. They're very concerned that they're going to, I don't know, not demolish it probably, but really not pay it any attention when they put their, big, huge casino and hotels and all that other shit. It's New England, so there's cemeteries squeezed into every crevice you can think of. Like Wendy's been to my part of town, and we go to TJ Maxx, there's a cemetery. You go to Taco Bell, there's a cemetery. I mean, they're all over the place. But this one is so special. And I'm not saying to downgrade any of those other cemeteries. They're all special. They're all people at one point in time. They had families that were going there, visiting them. They just either have moved or they've all died, and they can't go and maintain those places. Well, the Hebrew cemetery is definitely being maintained. There's definitely a lot of life still there because you can tell there's so many people going and visiting and dropping off those stones and paying their respects. So it would be devastating, to say the least, if they do anything with that area to, remove it from where it is. And honestly, I want them to keep those hospitals there too. And I'd really like for them to take down those trespassing signs so that my husband doesn't have a hissy fit.
It'd be nice if they get rid of that asbestos though too. That would,
oh my God,
that would be awesome.
I know. That would be great. So guys, just, wrap those things up for me so that I can come and visit you again. So we left the Norwich State Hospital site and headed to Seaside Sanatorium. So I finally got to see that. Again, cold as shit on the ocean and the wind is whipping. Like, I am shocked that I don't have a cold or the flu or some other kind of like sore throat going on, because I was standing out there. I took video. I had to, because one of the doors was like caught in the wind. So it's like swinging back and forth.
No.
It's like closing and then opening and smash, smash, smash. I'm like, oh my God, I love it. It's so creepy. And then this lady comes walking up and she's got a dog, friendly as all get out. Just, hi, how you doing? And the dog comes running up to me, and dog's like, oh, people. I love people. He's the cutest dog ever. And the site was incredibly neat. It's at a national park, so you can basically walk right up to this building. I mean, there's a fence, so you can walk right up to the fence and, put your eyeballs all over the buildings. You can't get in there. And there were asbestos signs on the building too. And there were actually people in there, I think, trying to remove the asbestos, trying to clean it out. There's more back and forth with the state, I think, on this location. At one point in time, they wanted to renovate it. They wanted to turn it into something that people could actually use functionally because it's part of the park. So I don't know if they were just going to clean it up, open it up, and you could use it as like a huge fancy gazebo. I don't know. But you still can't get in it today. But I mean, you can get really, really close, a lot closer than the Norwich State Hospital. Those sites, they're all down dirt roads. The roads are not maintained. They're overgrown. You might run into something or someone along the way. It's best to just see them from, out afar and then, take your pictures and move on. But Seaside Sanatorium was super cool. And it was good to finally go and see that too. That's an old tuberculosis hospital. Man, it took me a long time to say that word, tuberculosis.
It's the worst word in the world.
Yes.
They don't name diseases like that anymore. We've got coronavirus. Everybody can say that.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Oh, God, I hope they don't start naming them all after beers because we're going to be screwed. I'm just kidding. I don't even know how that name came up.
I don't know either, but it's a lot easier than TB to say.
Yeah, right. I know. I actually put TB here and then I'm like, I might as well just go forward with it and try to say the word, embarrassing myself and all, but should have just cut it out.
No,
TB.
When you're doing a story on it, I feel like you have to say it, the proper word once. And then after that, you can shorten it.
Yep.
But if you just say TB, people are like, what's she talking about? What?
Right. To be what? Continued? What? I mean, where are you going with the story?
I feel like almost you get concerned you might have lost them.
Yes. Well, there you go. Those are our reasonings for it. And now from now on, it's TB in this story. if it comes up again. So we left Seaside Sanatorium and we headed to Fairfield Hills, which is another institution that's abandoned, and it's like buildings everywhere. And again, people are out walking their dogs. There's like a kid riding a bike with training wheels just around this old abandoned asylum. And I mean, Fairfield Hills is notorious. It has underground tunnels. Actually, I think Norwich State Hospital had underground tunnels too. But this one, all their underground tunnels went to a bad place. It's like you chose a hallway and it's like, lobotomies or electroshock.
Is there a door number 3?
Right, exactly. There is, but it only got worse.
Oh, no.
I actually was telling my husband that story and he's like, ooh, so when you went down there, it didn't matter which fucking hallway they were taking you down. It was bad. It was bad. The cool thing about this place is if you've ever seen the movie Sleepers, Kevin Bacon's in it, it was filmed there. So if you have, you'll remember the building right away. But if you haven't, then oh well. I recommend it. It's a good one. This location, Fairfield Hills, it's again a bunch of spread out abandoned buildings, but they're all around a college campus and like municipal buildings. So there's like some government type stuff active there and a college. People are driving in and out. And then there's abandoned building, abandoned building, abandoned building. Keep the fuck out. 15 feet away. Like, it's so crazy. These people are going to school every day and they get to see this. You can walk right up to these. There's not fences around these either.
So were there fences? I don't remember. I just wanted to ask. The first one that you went to, the first hospital?
There's gates going to them. And I think there were fences, yes. But they're so far back off the road that there's like weeds and brush and all kinds of stuff you have to get to first to even attempt to get to those hospitals.
So are these people using, like the college and the government, are they using old buildings that they were able to actually refurbish, or they built other buildings just in the middle of this stuff?
It looked like to me that the buildings that they were using were newer, but there is one, as soon as you come in, that looks like they're going to turn it into a restaurant or a bar or something. I say that because there's a big sign out front that says that it's been approved for a liquor license. And it's clearly an abandoned building, and it might have been like an administrative building when you would have come onto the property. When you look into the windows, they have like the whole ceiling is kind of illuminated. They've got some blue lights that are going up into the ceiling, but it's still abandoned as fuck. So they're taking this one and they're going to reuse it. So it must have been the easiest one to get all the asbestos out of or what, but that one's going to be awesome.
Chris, that doesn't make any sense. Like, look, obviously, I don't own a restaurant. I don't know how this works, but I don't think liquor license is first on their list when they need to refurbish an entire building. So, like, that's like gonna be the theme of the place. This is the hangout, the abandoned building. You might have to go hang out with some college kids to see this one.
I already told Brandon that Connecticut has everything that I want. We have to move. these locations, they're not too far from each other. I mean, okay, I think Seaside and Norwich were on one part of the state and Fairfield and all of these other places were on the other. So there's about an hour drive between those places. But, I'm fine with sticking in the city with Fairfield. All of those areas over there were freaking gorgeous and pristine. The houses were sick. And then you go around the corner and then it's like abandoned building. I'm like, yes. I'll take it all. This is for me.
It's so funny. You want to live in a nice neighborhood, but surrounded by old abandoned buildings, please.
That's how I work. So when we left Fairfield Hills, it was actually like 4:00 in the afternoon. Didn't realize that we had spent the entire day out here. But like I said before, it took me 3.5 hours to drive just to get to 2 locations in Connecticut. But I had a list. So we make our way around to where Union Cemetery is. And this is one that's been on my bucket list for a decade because I have, a thing with Ed and Lorraine Warren. Mm-hmm. And this was their cemetery. This was the one that they were like, dude, guys, y'all. Come on, this place is haunted. You got to see this. This is actually a location where they're said to be the woman in white appears. And what happens is this ghost is a bit of a prankster. She likes to just step out in the middle of the road while you're driving and be like, poof, you hit her. And then you get all like, oh my God. You get out of your car to go find her and she's not there. So that's her deal. I don't know. She's bored, just having a little fun.
That's rude as fuck, man.
But that's her thing. So you're supposed to be able to see her there. What I saw was a really old cemetery. It seems like there's been a lot of vandalism there. It's a smaller town, so I assume that the kids don't have anything going on. But I've never been to a cemetery yet that had this many stones toppled over.
Oh.
They're just on the ground. So many of them. And then there were some that were just missing. They're just gone. So people are coming in there at night, being assholes, taking the grave markers of these people, pushing things over. And it's really sad. Like the sign for the cemetery is gone too. I didn't see any spray paint while I was there. I did see it at a different location, but I don't know if the church can even stop it. I don't know what they're doing to stop it, but there's just so many of these stones that were toppled over. It was sad. I did see at that location a couple of stones that had some activity going on, but not a lot. There's, the stones that have the coins and stuff on top of them. I saw a rosary around another one of them, but even those big pillar style tombstones, those were fucking knocked down.
Damn.
I mean, they are not just coming down with time. And somebody has gone out there and actually lifted them back up, but they're not back on top of those pillars either. They're just sitting next to what it fell off of. So many chipped and broken. If it was an angel and it had a face on it, the face is gone, the wings are gone. I mean, people are just really messing around with that cemetery, and it's really, really, really sad. Y'all just stop it. I mean, go and talk to the ghosts, but don't deface. What the hell is wrong with you? Don't do that shit.
I don't think those are people that are listening to our podcast.
No, that's true.
They don't have any respect.
No, they don't. Now, I forgot to mention, my husband has a very small car. What he has is a Subaru BRZ. It is not a Subaru to what you're thinking of. It is a small, 2-door, sporty kind of a car. Think of a Toyota Celica from the 90s, right? That's what you got when you're thinking of my husband's car, but it's a lot lower to the ground. So we find the cemetery, which, by the way, it's in a very, there's so many cars driving by it. There's just no peace at the cemetery either. So vandals, and there's no peace because cars are driving up and down this road all day long. He hits the curb kind of quick and he sees that there's an entrance. So he goes ahead and takes it with the car and we bought him out.
Oh no.
I'm like, no. He's like, it's okay. But I'm like, it's not okay. What do we do? We got out of there just fine. But it was, again, it's can't drive my Ford because it's out of commission right now. We're taking the Honda places, but at the same time, it's a 20-year-old vehicle. So we want to take something that's a little newer just in case. And he doesn't want to take the van because the van's a 10-year-old vehicle too. So anyways, enough of my life stories. Let me move on. So we check out Union Cemetery. We got the fill. Someone is even going there on their lunch break and eating a lot of the middle parts of the sandwiches and leaving their crust everywhere. There's a lot of sandwich crust.
What the fuck?
Ow! Just come on. Take that shit with you. We'd start driving down the road. And, I'm lost. I'm not watching the map. I give Brandon all of the details, and he's navigating, and he's driving. And we come around the corner, and I see Monroe, Connecticut. I'm like, why does that ring a bell? We drive around the corner. I'm like, oh, my God. Lorraine and Ed Warren are buried right there. They're buried right there. Their house is right down the street. And my husband's like, how do you even know all of this? He just thought, I had, a past life experience just all of a sudden. Because, I was just here. Duh. I didn't realize that's why, they were able to investigate that cemetery so often because it was right down the street from their friggin' house, man. It was like 5 minutes. They were there.
Yeah. They're like walking there after having a few glasses of wine.
You know it. You know it. So by that time, it was super late. We ended up finding a hotel and staying the night in Connecticut. We woke up the next day and we found another very haunted cemetery. It's called Guntown Cemetery. It's another one of those most haunted in the state kind of cemeteries. This is a location where people are supposed to get like really sick, bad vibes when you go in there. I did not. It's actually a really cool cemetery. And there's also a legend that says there's 2 spirits that are said to haunt there. One is of a little boy who stays near the back wall, and one is of a man who carries a lantern and walks a ghostly horse.
What?
That's why I told Brent, I said, keep your fucking eyes peeled because there's some shit going down here and we got to find it. No, I didn't see anything. So I was a little disappointed. Again, I'm going in the daytime, guys. I mean, what do you expect?
Well, we have had experiences with ghosts in the daytime, and multiple other people have too. It's possible.
It is. You can get EVPs. We have done that. I don't think we've ever seen anything during the daytime. And I guess that's why, I don't know, they say that you have to take pictures at night. I don't know. I don't get that whole idea.
I think because of the light from the sun that kind of washes things out, just the brightness of it. Yeah, you probably weren't going to see that horse.
Yeah, I know. But damn, that would have been so cool. So no horses, no apparitions. We left Guntown Cemetery and we went looking for another place we couldn't find. That was a long shot anyways. It's supposed to be an abandoned fairy village that a man made. He made it basically as like a roadside attraction because they had trains and stuff that used to come through there and people would get off the train and look at the tiny little houses, tons of them. And he made like a throne, like a huge throne so that I guess, I don't know who could be the king of the fairy people. But I thought, how cool would it be to go and see that? Couldn't find it. They've built up around it. There's a location that said that you could park at and walk up the road. But this restaurant has so many signs on every spot and they're filming you too. Don't park here unless you're eating here. Don't park here unless you're eating here. We're watching you. Go away. Okay, well, we drove off. And the last thing on the list was one that I was going to skip because they said it doesn't exist anymore, and that's Holy Land. It's a Bible-themed park that this man went out of his way to create for another themed park for people to come and see. They had the sign like you would, I guess, in Los Angeles for Hollywood, but his said Holy Land. I think in 2010, there was a murder there. So it's gotten kind of bad from what I understand. Everything that I read basically said, just don't go. Just don't go. I'm like, really? It's that bad? So I was going to skip it. As a matter of fact, we were cruising our way out of town, leaving at this point, and there it fucking was, up on the hill. You could see the cross, you could see the sign, Holy Land. So at least I got to get a picture of that as we were peacing out. So that wasn't everything that I went to see. Actually, I skipped over one of the biggest parts. On my list of must-sees was the abandoned Remington Arms Building in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Nice.
Of course, this is another location. You can't go in. It's probably not a place you want to. The buildings, they're all sitting in ruin. They're bad at this point. I feel like a strong wind could come in and take that shit down if it wanted to. I mean, it's not looking very good these days. And the Remington Arms was a munitions plant. So there's a lot of things that are still in there that would definitely cause me to die. It's in a very urbanized area where there's lots of reported drug activity and homelessness going on. In fact, while I was outside taking pictures of the side of the building, a man was walking right towards me screaming at the top of his lungs.
Oh, no.
I just scooted on out of there and let him go on about his angry little way. It's like, whatever fit you're having, I don't want to have any part of that, sir.
Was he directing it towards you, or is he just having a moment to himself?
He was speeding up coming towards me, and he was getting louder. So whatever he was saying, and my husband's like, what, we got to go. What are we doing? Let's go. I'm going. So we just got out of there. Whatever words were coming out of his mouth, I couldn't make it out. And I don't know if that's because I was just so stunned by the fact that this was happening that I'm like, brain, don't comprehend it. Go. It was that moment of nope out. But basically, you're able to get close enough to get a good look at many of the decaying structures. And I highly suggest doing just that. I realized that there aren't too many of these places that are still standing, as you know, places like the Danvers State Hospital. I missed that one. So while there's still a couple of these places hanging around, I want to try and get my own pictures of them if I can't go in to see them myself. So my story is on Remington Arms. Would you like to hear about it?
I would love to hear about it.
I think you're going to like this one. So Remington Arms is located at 812 Barnum Avenue in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and is easily spotted by the dilapidated buildings, barbed wire fences, and its gorgeous yet ominous glaring deterioration. But be warned, if you go, you're going to have to be very alert. There's drug dealers, gang members, and all sorts of troublemakers like you would expect to find in a rough neighborhood. So my story starts back in 1867, when the Union Metallic Cartridge Company first opened shop in the East End of Bridgeport. The company was super successful and later purchased by Remington Arms, who in 1915 expanded the factory into a 73-acre manufacturing complex.
Shit.
Yeah, I know. It was booming. During the first half of the 20th century, it was among the biggest munitions factories in the world, employing over 17,000 workers and literally producing tons of ammunition and weapons each year. One of the most interesting of the buildings at Remington Arms is what is known as the Shot Tower, which is also said to be the highest point in Bridgeport. Now, shot towers were most commonly used for producing shot balls for muskets from the late 18th century to the 1960s. From the very top of the tower, workers would pour molten lead through a sieve. And I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's basically a strainer. While falling through the empty tower, the lead would cool and form into perfectly round balls. These would land in a basin of water to be cooled further and to solidify. And that's as scientific as I'm going to get for the rest of this episode.
It sounds so simple, though.
It just starts at the top and it bing, 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 and you got bullets. Sweet.
Yeah, and somehow they form like into these perfect little balls. Well, not perfect, I'm sure, but
yeah, I'm sure some of them were a little off. But hey, as long as they did the job, they didn't really care, right?
Right.
This huge facility, sitting in the heart of a bustling city, which served as both a powerful economic engine and key cornerstone for the American military complex, seemed to have had a pretty good start. But like any major factory, this one has had its fair share of fatalities on the premises. 2 of these fatal accidents were the result of falling into giant pots of molten metal.
Ugh.
I mean, no.
No.
So these pots were basically death traps. They were huge holes in the floor the size of bathtubs. And I didn't see any fencing around them either. So I could see how it would be easy to fall into that shit. I definitely couldn't have worked there. On April 4th, 1905, 3 men were killed when an explosion blew one of the 38 buildings to pieces. In July of 1915, the laborers rioted, which resulted in one fatality of an 18-year-old that had been bludgeoned to death.
Fuck. Wait, why are they rioting?
So it was a strike. I have the snippet from the actual headline of the newspaper. So it says, laborers riot as Remington Arms strike spreads. Sudden mysterious outburst by 100 Portuguese workmen quelled by guards with clubs. Millwrights quit work. Company must side against carpenters or face shutdown. Iron workers say, deny German influence. But Penfield reiterates strike is aimed at allies. Company shortens workers' hours. Laborers riot as Remington Arms strike spreads. So, bullshit.
Yeah.
And then in 1942, during the height of its wartime efforts, a deadly explosion occurred on the production floor. This horrible accident killed 7 workers and injured 80 others, and some workers blamed the incident on wartime sabotage, which at the time, there were plenty of rumors circulating just like that. But of course, I tell my husband this because I'm in a car with him. I'm telling him this whole story, right? The first thing out of his mouth was, yeah, no shit. I'd blame sabotage too if that just blew up on my shift. Like, no, sabotage. Was not me.
But like this shit's highly flammable, right?
Oh, yes. Highly flammable.
Incredibly easy to have these types of accidents.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the explosions, sure. I mean. Not the murders.
No, not the murders.
Slipping in the melted metals, but
yeah, fires definitely happened a lot there. I mean, shit, we're talking, what year did I say this was? 1942. Okay, so that's a little bit later in the century. But I mean, the mills around here would go up in flames all the time. And it's just because they're working. They've got sparks flying off of stuff. They've got flammable things everywhere. And I'm just talking a general cotton mill. I couldn't imagine being in one of these munitions places where everything around you is flammable. Screw that. Oh, right. And for the rest of the people, they get poisoned. The lead dust from the bullets, which had filled the factory, slowly poisoned anyone having prolonged contact to it. So,
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Now, many claim that these events are responsible for the shadowy black figures, which have been reportedly seen by numerous people over the years. Bridgeport police officers have often ventured into the condemned complex, often investigating sightings of figures on the grounds, and have also reported seeing unusual things as well. The building being off limits, naturally, it is their job to remove any trespassers, which they have had to do so in the past, but they've also reportedly seen these shadow-like figures without ever finding a trace of the source itself. But in addition to these dark entities, there have also been reports of various paranormal activities, from eerie voices and disembodied screams to spirit orbs and mists. Those who have ventured inside the gates also claim to experience feelings of dread and unexplained cold spots. Considering its unfortunate history and that the property has fallen into such disrepair, many have concluded that the Remington Arms is cursed. In 1970, Remington decided to move the majority of its production to a new plant in Arkansas. And by 1988, they had abandoned the site in Connecticut altogether. Other companies, including General Electric, have also used the site for stretches before finally leaving behind an empty, sprawling complex that has slowly been reclaimed by Mother Nature and further eaten away by urban decay. It's unclear whether the abandonment, the foreclosure, or the series of fires, one which burnt for a week straight, right, came first for the Remington Arms factory and its shot tower, but either way, the buildings have remained unused for quite some time. So, guess who visited this location back in 2009?
Is it Ghost Adventures?
Ghost Adventures! I had to put a note here not to say it because I knew you'd get it.
I don't remember this episode, but I do remember that they had went there because it was like a year later or something. Like they had a huge fire. And so they were saying something like, I'm glad we got to investigate before this, giant fire. So just like how you were saying about going and seeing these abandoned buildings before they're not there anymore.
Yeah. I saw drone footage of the huge fire. It was impressive. Basically, it was in the middle of the building, like the second, third, and fourth floors all went up in flames. And like I said, there was a drone that they had out there actually taking, the video of the fire. And I'm just like, that's my dream job. I need to be a drone going around abandoned buildings. I mean, if it happens to be on fire, fine. I'll take that for you too. But I just want to take it around the abandoned buildings.
There's people that do that shit. They buy like a nice drone and then they offer their services. Real estate agents, all kinds of people hire you just to make drone videos.
Dude.
I don't know how much money you make with it though. But yes, sorry. Yes, if you buy a nice droid, you should let droid. If you buy a fucking droid, you let me know.
I know, right? Because that bitch will be editing some podcasts, right?
Yes. Probably the only person we can get to sit and listen to our recording.
You're like, nope, that's not right. Open up your head. We've got to make some tune-ups here. Make that podcast perfect, bitch. So what's funny is this episode was back from 2009, and this was early Ghost Adventures crew. This was the three-man, Nick, Zach, and Aaron. And what stuck out to me, I couldn't even believe I was seeing this. When they go to leave their lockdown, they're driving away in a white van with Ghost Adventure crew stickers on the window. They went to Sticker Mule or something like that. We need as many Ghost Adventure Crew stickers as we can get. And they're just all the windows are pasted.
Tagging them.
It was just so cute. This was such a vintage episode. And I was so in love with seeing it. This was still the Zach punking out the ghosts days too, So in the summer of 2009, Ghost Adventures made their way to Bridgeport's now abandoned Remington Arms. And this was season 3, episode 4. They were already on season 3 by 2009. It was all 2009, I think, where they had season 1, 2, and 3, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe they really thought season meant fall, spring, winter.
The seasonal changes. They have a season for every season.
Yeah, that's what was going on. So in this episode, they also visit John Zaffis. This is the paranormal godfather. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, he's also the haunted collector dude. Wendy, you brought him up in another episode.
Yeah. I really dig his show. But man, he has a unique voice.
And I think I found out why. He's from Connecticut.
Oh, is he? I could not place that accent, man.
It's funny. I got to hear a lot of Connecticut accents while I was there. And it is a weird accent to me. I'm used to the Boston accent now. I'm not so used to the New York accent. And Connecticut is basically, it's like, New York's stepchild, ugly redheaded stepchild. It's cheaper, you're close, so you can live here, that sort of thing. So, and the accents are a little weird. When I was looking up stuff for Remington Arms, I found this guy who, he did a little urban exploration. He went into the Remington Arms. I mean, he actually gives you a really nice visual on the place too. But the funniest thing was I had to replay his intro like 5 times because I could not understand what he was saying. And he's introducing himself and he's like, yo, yay, guys, guess what time it is? And I'm like, okay, what? And he says, Sasa, Sasa. I had to hear it like 5 times. He's calling himself Muscle Russell. And I didn't understand what he was saying. He's like, it's Muscle Russell. I'm like, stop it.
Oh.
Say it again.
Oh, no. Let's not do that.
It was funny, but he had a really nice camera and he took a really nice actual layout of the whole place itself. But the dude was tripping me out. And he plays Pink Panther at the end too, which is awesome.
That is pretty cool.
So back to John Zaffis, and I got to bring this up because I'm a little confused on his details, so just forgive me here. John Zaffis was either living in Connecticut during the time of this episode and has since moved to Massachusetts, or it's the other way around. I saw conflicting things on the internet. And no, I didn't drop by his crib to say hi. The guy seems nice enough, but I would be the one weirdo fangirl showing up on his doorstep drooling. So it's probably for the best that I don't know where he lives. And anyways, I just wanted to tell you all that for those of you that are listening. He's in New England somewhere.
Like we send people out on a manhunt for him.
Go find Tell us where he is. So the Ghost Adventures crew drop in on John Zaffis. He shows them around his creepy basement filled to the brim with haunted shit, and they talk trigger objects. Zach pulls out a couple of empty shell casings and a rusty old fuse. Paranormal Godfather was like, yep, I think you're golden there. And that's really it. Zaffis makes a joke about lending Zach a doll he found that was from Remington Arms, and Zach's face suddenly looks like a mix between joy and anguish. But Zaffis was like, haha, I got you, Zach. And he's all like pointing at him and shit. Looks like they sound like these guys have been the best of friends for eons. So back to the factory and on to their preliminary investigation. The Ghost Adventures crew began walking around and interviewing a cop/paranormal investigator by the name of Jim Myers. And they immediately experience an equipment malfunction. Aaron's camera light shuts off right away. He said that he had fresh batteries in it, but it just goes out as soon as they start up. Weird, but not shocking. They continue their walkthrough and interview, all while commenting on hearing unidentifiable noises and unexplained voices. So it seemed to be pretty active before they even got started. You know, I love it when that shit happens. You know, it's like waiting for them. It's like, oh, you guys are here? I'm going to throw something. Go find it. Go see what's over there. Ha, look at them. You know, I love that. Ghosts do that to us all the time. I don't know why I'm even laughing.
Because it's funny to laugh at other people that have to go through it too. You don't feel alone. You're like, ha, you fell for it too.
You fell for it too. So they determined that many of the noises and the voices all heard or captured during their investigation were residual. These include a banging noise, sounds of screaming, crying, talking, yelling, a gunshot, followed by a scream in pain, growling, which actually, to me, the growling, it sounded like a floorboard creaking. I'm just saying.
Oh, okay.
They deemed it growling. I'm not a ghost adventure, obviously, but that's just what I heard.
Because I was going to say, growling doesn't sound residual. Okay, guys? Like all
Right.
those other things, they're documented events or things that could have happened in that factory. But why is someone growling? But floorboard creaking, yes.
That's honestly, when I heard it, I was like, I wasn't even watching. But they're like, oh, did you hear that growling? Like, I thought that was the floorboards, but whatever. And of course, footsteps. So the gunshot was actually very interesting. Now, they're in a munitions factory. Guns went off all the time, clearly. But immediately, you also think, okay, duh, didn't you say this is in a rough part of town? Yes, I did. It is rough. So it's very possible that it was a gunshot outside of the building. But wait. They thought about that. The gunshot was not heard by their own ears, and it was only captured on one of the static cameras that they had set up, and not on any of the other 4 static cameras that they had recording. It was only recorded on one. Furthermore, they followed through and said that they called the cops to confirm whether or not a gunshot had been reported in the area that night, and they said that there hadn't been. So I do like that one. I like it because they had multiple cameras set up. Nobody heard it with their own ears. It was only heard after the fact. And it was like a gunshot and they sound like they're in pain. Like they just got shot.
Yeah, that's paranormal. Okay.
That's a good one.
Because if a gunshot went off in the neighborhood, the other ones would have caught it.
Oh, yeah.
It's loud enough if it was happening in real time right in that neighborhood.
Yes. Further to the point, I didn't write this down. I don't know why. I forgot about it. But, a car drives by the road and the car is honking on its horn, loud as fuck. Like, I heard this and I'm like, immediately I'm thinking they're in Boston because as soon as you're in Massachusetts, it's like horn city. Everyone's laying on the horn. So this car drives by and he's like laying on the horn and they heard it on every camera.
Right.
So they would have heard a gunshot on every camera if they heard it on one. That's a good one. Now, the EVPs they got were sometimes a little rough to make out. Like you could hear something there, and sometimes I wasn't hearing the same thing that they were suggesting that I should hear. Also, I don't remember them saying that any one of their EVPs were Class A EVPs. Oh, and the voices were both male and female. So they got in total 8 EVPs, but again, they were gravelly. And one came right as Aaron was having an experience. Like he all of a sudden felt sick and then the EVP was captured. They suggested that it says there's something. The EVP might have been cut off, maybe. Maybe there's something in your teeth, but they were all freaking out.
Why? I don't know why they would freak out about that.
Basically what happens is Nick and Zach both have an experience at the same time. They felt like energy just went right through them. Both of them have goosebumps all on their arms. Their hair is standing up. They get it right up to the camera so you can see that they both having chill bumps at the same time. And these guys are like, oh my God, did you feel that? Yeah, it was like an energy. Oh my God. They're just back and forth, back and forth. And then Aaron's like, oh God, I don't feel good. I feel sick. I feel real sick. And then it was like, there's something. And he's like, what did you say? What was that? Like, it was just a sudden burst of activity. And I don't think that they were really expecting it to come at them like that. So that's what I mean by they were freaking out. So if it was saying something else, like you're stepping on my shoe, or I don't know, it didn't sound like to me like it was saying there's something. They just are alluding to that's what it was saying to them.
Yeah. Well, I will give them this, and all paranormal shows this. A lot of the time, it's hard for us as viewers to make out exactly what you're hearing.
Right.
I just assume it's you're playing it through your recording and then putting it in your computer and putting it in your editing software, and now it's coming out on the TV and it doesn't sound exactly the same. So sometimes I decide maybe we should just trust them. This is in their gut feeling that this is what they heard at the time.
Yeah, I have to agree with you because I can't do anything else. I'm a viewer. It's so easy for me to sit back and just watch and, talk about all these things than to actually have been there in the moment. And they are going with their gut. Most likely that was the first thing that they heard. So that's what they're going to repeat. And we've done that before too. We hear something right away. I'm like, oh my God, that said hell. And you go back and you listen to it and you're like, well, why did I think it said hell right away? It's like Wendy's cheeseburger or something. I don't know. It says something completely opposite. It's a weird thing. But for all of the EVPs that they got, with the exception of 2, they weren't as clear. So like there's something, you definitely hear the words, maybe the syllables, but it doesn't sound like that to me. Other EVPs they got were me, not so hard, yes, I like it, energy, and help. Now the one help that they got was like, actually, it sounded like it was coming from afar and it sounded like it was being yelled at them. They heard it with their own ears, and it was one that you could hear, and it could have been residual. It could have been someone walking by. It was clear as day. Oh, so another thing is too, when they're opening up this episode, you see that they have cops there. They have like a perimeter for a good reason. I already said it. It's not a good area. So I'm sure that the cops were patrolling. They weren't just sitting in their cars the whole time. And if they had seen anybody walking by, they probably would have ran them off. So anyways, then they caught a few apparitions. One is of a bright flash of light in the hallway, and it was at the same time that the yell was heard, the one that I was just talking about, help.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that is cool. I got another one for you. They felt that this next one was a partial manifestation of a leg and a foot by the camera. This one's also interesting because at the same time they get this flash of light and feel like it's a foot and a leg, they hear footsteps on the camera recording.
That's cool.
I know. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on there. And you would think, and even if it is residual, there's definite paranormal activity.
You know what? Just because something's a residual haunting doesn't mean it's not fun, especially if you can clock that shit. Like they say every this date or at this time, this ghost is going to be here or this happens, you know, fuck, awesome. I'm bringing my popcorn. How easy. I love residual haunts.
Those are the best, right? That reminds me of the the Devil's House or whatever in New Orleans somewhere where they're like every day at 3 p.m. they're like, all right, here comes the show.
Yeah.
You could bank on that, man. It's definitely going to happen. To me, watching this episode was awesome. I actually watched the episode after I went down to see this building. I knew I had to go and see it. I knew that they had been there. I knew the episode was good, but I hadn't seen the episode in so long. So I actually watched this episode last night. Again, with my husband, so he got to see everything with me. But it was so nostalgic for me to go back to this. I mean, it probably was 2009 when I saw this fucking episode. And I'm not saying their new stuff isn't good. I'm not saying that at all. As you know, Billy Tully's my favorite, so I'm not missing that.
But some of the locations that they went to, let's be honest, right. Zach does not travel outside of his comfort zone anymore.
No,
meaning he has a hard time traveling.
He does.
So they have made the effort to him get into his sweet ass RV and go off to places, but they're not going overseas and they're not going out east or south, you know, southeast is what I mean.
That's right.
East, south. I don't know. They're not going on that side of the country anymore as much because it's such a chore for him to travel out there. But that's where so many historic locations are. All these fucking abandoned buildings. I mean, the desert can't handle this shit. We've got some. They find them.
I know.
They find good places, dark histories and stuff like that. But you got some great locations out there and they're just not going out to those places as often anymore. So yeah, you got to go back to the old ones sometimes to get a really good juicy story.
Yeah. And also because of how you can actually see kind of like the timeline of the way things have changed over time for them as a group, as a show. You know, back then, Zach was a little bit more silly. I mean, I say that he's still probably pretty silly now, but he portrays himself in a way that he's more of this dark, mysterious figure instead of like the pun master like he used to be. In this episode in particular, they have to go all the way up to the top of the shot tower. Because like I said, that's where all the views are. You have to go all the way up there. And he gets to like that last ladder and he's just like, guys, I can't do this. I am afraid of heights, as you know. Guys, I'm sorry. And he, turns to the audience and he tells us, and he's like, I am deathly afraid of heights. And he's just a little bit more loose with those sort of things. And there was another part in the episode when they're going through it and they're in the investigation. It's dark, it's nighttime. And Zach turns to Nick and Aaron and he says, do you mind if I have the honor of going first? I mean, when does he ever say anything like that? It's usually like, get your ass in there and lock it down. So if you haven't seen it, go and find it. It's a good one. It's a classic. Now, on to Damned Connecticut. This is a great site, like a website, and it's called Damned Connecticut. And this is where I was able to secure a load of the information for the story from. And in their story, they gave a third-hand encounter. Like, I mean, I heard it from a friend of a friend's husband. So I don't have names here. And for the sake of not having to say, I heard it from a friend of a friend's husband every single time, I just called the guy Napoleon. I thought it was a funny name, so we'll just roll with that.
Sorry. That's so loud.
So Napoleon actually did some work at Remington Arms for some time, and he was able to take some pictures and he had some odd experiences. So this is his story. According to Napoleon, Remington Arms was a really creepy place to be working in even during the day. At first, he wasn't even sure it was Remington Arms because they had been told that they were working at General Electric. Which it was General Electric after Remington Arms moved out.
Right,
so
yeah.
Once they were actually in the building and strange things started happening, that's when they realized GE was renting only a smaller portion of the Remington Arms building. The strange experience he had was in the restroom of all fucking places. Why does this keep happening?
They get you when you're your most vulnerable.
They're like, oh, good, you're sitting down. Good. Wait. Napoleon said he was alone. Good to know. You're in the bathroom. But the door did not open. So he knew nobody came in or out, but he saw a shadow move across the room like someone else was walking through it.
Nope. Because for me, my first instincts would be like, who was in this bathroom before I got in here?
I know. Candyman.
That I didn't realize. I set my bare ass down on this toilet and now I'm stuck in here with this person that didn't announce themselves. So they must be dangerous.
I've had nightmares just like this.
Yeah,
just like
I
this.
check underneath my bed every night before I go to sleep because of stuff like this.
This is one of those experiences nobody ever wants to happen. You are, like you said, in a vulnerable spot, and now you're stuck. It's like, shit, what am I going to do? He didn't say what he did next. I assume he finished up and left because he lived on to tell his tale. He said that they meaning people that worked with him, they heard many strange noises in the areas of the building where none of the other workers were. And since it was the middle of the day and the building supervisor was there, they didn't think of any, vandals or drug dealers or anything like that being in the building. Another experience he had was when he was taking pictures for his wife, who is obsessed with creepy places. I like her already. Okay, this is kind of weird. There was a dead bird on the floor in one of the rooms, which wouldn't have been super unusual, being that it is an old abandoned building and all. But the bird was completely mutilated and half scattered across the room.
Nope. That's not a good sign.
And that's I've heard stories like that too from this place. I didn't actually put them in my story here, but I did read where more animals that were dismembered in such a fashion. It's weird. And you can see how animals and birds would get into a building like that and just die. But it doesn't make any sense. But to be honest, he says that he hadn't even heard any stories about Remington Arms until he looked up the location online, and now is completely convinced that his experiences were supernatural. So he asked his wife to research the area while he was still at work, and that's when they put the pieces together that GE was actually Remington Arms, and the shadowy figures that he saw in the bathroom had been the same that the other people there were talking about as well. Now that he knows the history of the buildings and the sightings that other people have seen throughout the years, he's totally convinced that his experiences were nothing but supernatural experiences. No explanation for the shadows and sounds that went on in that building. So I have a couple of pictures that Napoleon took
while he was on the toilet.
No, I wish he was like, damn, I got to take that picture. That'd be awesome. I mean, he didn't do that. But while he was working there, and probably after that experience, he probably decided to start keeping his cell phone on him. So, Wendy, I'm going to send you one of these images right now. I've got a couple. Here it comes.
I'm waiting for it.
So while you're waiting, I'm going to tell you that he wasn't really sure what this was. As you can see, it's broad daylight when you do finally get it.
I do. Yep, I got it.
So there's kind of like a white misty thing that is off in the air.
It's a ghost camel.
It is a ghost camel! Nice. Ghost camel solved.
When you look up in the clouds, you decide what they look like? That's kind of what this ghost hunting's like.
It is. That's what this is, though. It looks just like a camel to me. Ghost camel. Cool. I'm going to write into them and let them know. We got you, man.
They must have used it to move machinery.
The ghost camel?
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I mean, they're kind of assholey, though. I mean, when they don't want to move machinery, they just sit down. That's funny, though. What Wendy says, I mean, it could even be like an elephant with a trunk.
Yes. They can get real assholey when you piss them off.
So he wasn't sure about it. He just submitted it because he's like, it's weird. Y'all do whatever you want to with it.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously the sun is coming in that giant fucking window right there.
Yeah.
So
right.
I'm not intelligent enough to be able to explain to you maybe what that could possibly cause, what kind of glare in this room. I chase glares in my house all the time because my dog is obsessed with chasing lights. He barks at them, he howls at them, he attacks the wall, all kinds of stuff. But it takes us a while to even figure out which device is doing it or what's causing it. So I couldn't tell you, but it's a very odd shape for it to be a glare off this very square window.
Right. I mean, to me, what we're looking at is some sort of like a white vapory or smoke that just appears in this room. And it does look like a camel or an elephant. So I'll post that one. You guys can look at it and let me know what you think. So the next one I have for you is weird. Again, he's in the building by himself taking these pictures during the day. And this one's fun. You don't see anything right away. You're going to have to click on the picture and look all the way at the very end where there's a bit of a black mass.
What's funny is it looks like there's a black and white mist. Are we just thinking that that's like light? I almost see like a bride and groom at the end of this hallway. You know what I mean?
I do see that. It does look like a bride and a groom because it looks like it's like a man in like a tuxedo with his arm around somebody.
Yeah, I mean, like in a woman with a veil and stuff. It's not that detailed, guys. This is a long shot down a hallway, but at the end of the hallway, if you say that nobody's supposed to be in this hallway, then how come there's this black mass at the end that just looks like a little black peg? But also next to that black peg, that's like there's a little white peg.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's the light coming in from, a window and, another room or something like that. But it almost looks like a white and black peg next to each other.
It is. It's like a blurry wedding cake topper all the way down there.
Yeah, that is a human-sized wedding cake topper at the end of this hallway.
That's awesome.
Of the building, though?
Yeah,
so,
this is in the building.
Two people would not be getting married in this building.
I don't think so. I mean, I really don't think so. What was it? It was a munitions plant. It was GE. I mean, people get married in the weirdest places. They get married in McDonald's, and things like that. So who knows? Maybe somebody did get married there, but I didn't even see that right away until you saw it. So, I mean, that gives me something else to look into. Maybe there was someone that got married there.
But then again, I mean, unless they're trying to fake it, they would know that those are real people down there. So
right.
They're obviously claiming that nobody was in this hallway, and then they got these two images.
You're exactly right. Napoleon said nobody was in the area whatsoever when he took this picture.
And maybe the white mist is really just light coming in from something else, and he's just focused on the black one. But it basically just looks like a black blob at the end of the hallway. Interesting, though, since nobody is supposed to be down there.
Right. Nobody is supposed to be down there, and I mean, it sucks that I couldn't get in there myself and see. What if it's a chair all the way down there? It depends on how long it took him to actually go back and look at the images too.
Yeah, and he would forget his surroundings.
Yeah.
But that's why we take stuff with the lights on and then off, because we have bad memories.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think this could be a chair, though. I mean, it's awful tall.
It is,
to be a chair.
Well, it's shaped like a body.
It is. Yeah, you could see like a head and shoulders. Head and Shoulders. Sorry. That's dumb. If you'd like us to do your ads, Head and Shoulders. My oldest is using that shampoo now only because it's like the only thing we had.
Oh, that's what Tyler uses.
God, it smells good.
It does. Do you have a green apple? That's Tyler's using.
No, it's not green apple. I haven't looked exactly what it was, but it's not like the old Head and Shoulders is all I'm saying.
Oh, no, it's not. No, it was just a 2-in-1. Back in the day, I couldn't get Tyler to stay in the shower and actually clean himself unless I made it super easy for him. So he's just stuck with this 2-in-1 ever since. So no dandruff on my boy. All right, so this next one is a favorite of mine, but it's also like one of those, it's so good, Wendy, that it might be too good to be true.
It's so hard that we have to be that mindset.
I know.
We hear stories, we share stories about these amazing experiences with ghostly figures. But then when you show us a photo, we're like, liar. It's not possible.
Well, no, I don't want to say liar here. It's just that when you see this photo, so it was a girl and her sister that went around the building taking pictures. But it's so good that it's too good to be true because, I mean, it looks like a person was actually in there. I don't think it was one of them, but you don't see the face. The face is chopped off.
Yes. So Chris sent me a photo of a window of the building, and it's all got broken glass and stuff. So is the ghostly figure closest to the brick wall, right?
Yep.
Okay. You not only don't see a face, what you do see is okay, this sounds stupid, but it looks like an animal face or a skeleton. You can go either way because it looks like there's holes for eyes and holes for a nose socket, or it's a black nose of a dog. But it's just weird because the rest of the image looks like it's got hair. It's like, is this what you're seeing too? Like female hair? No?
To me, the whole face was the thing that is why I was like, okay, I'm going to show this one to Wendy because the fact that the face is missing, but is kind of like the skeleton, like blacked out cavity, I like. But honestly, to me, the head part, it looks like some sort of a hat. Now, maybe it's a construction hat or it's very round. It's very dome shaped.
Yes, so that's the same thing I'm seeing. I guess I'm just overdoing it and thinking that it's some I don't know what, 60s, 70s type hair where it's all perfectly combed. She's the secretary in the office or something like that.
Okay.
But yes, it is very round.
And it could be because there have been female voices captured here also. And to me, it would make sense that it's more female because it looks like it might be wearing a dress. Now, it could also be an apron. I mean, I don't know, but it's a top that seems to be tucked into something that looks drapey. It doesn't look like it's pants unless, that part of the body just didn't materialize. I don't know.
Right. To me, it looks like a sweater and a skirt type situation. So I immediately thought it was a girl, and that's the top of her hair. And then maybe she's got, whatever. You can't see the rest of her hair, but I just assume like the little perfect curls underneath it or something.
Yeah.
So the fact that you can't see a face and it's not incredibly detailed to me, I don't think that this is one of those that is too good to be true. Unless they purposely made it flawed. They knew not to go over the top with it. But
smart kids these days.
They're getting crafty, man.
First, I saw it and I'm like, oh, it's a window. I'm like, oh, but that glass is clearly broken. It's not a reflection. I'm like, okay, let's look at this. And I'm like, man, that's so clear. But the face is not. Face is gone.
They also appear to be shooting upward, like they're underneath it.
Yeah.
It looks like it's on an upper level is what I'm saying. So it couldn't be a reflection of somebody on the outside. And if somebody was in the building, like we said, they don't have a face. So I don't know how that could be a real human person without a face. Or this very distorted face.
Dog face.
It's a dog face. It's like Lexi with hair wearing a sweater and skirt.
You figured it out. It's my homemade picture.
Oh, you did.
No, but that's so funny that you're like, it's Lexi. I see it.
Because she has a little snout.
Yeah, she's a little snout.
What is she?
She's a Dachshund.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's like my brain just went empty there for a second.
So, one more interesting point for me to mention is the St. Augustine Cemetery. Now, this is located on the east side of Bridgeport and basically right outside of the factory. It is recorded as being the first Roman Catholic cemetery in Fairfield County, Connecticut, and among the oldest Catholic cemeteries in the Bridgeport Diocese. The cemetery is largely Irish, although there are Polish, Czech, Italian, Russian, Hispanic, and other ethnicities represented. It is estimated that about 2,000 individuals are buried at the St. Augustine Cemetery, and it was once on the banks of the Pembroke Lake. But that picturesque view has long since vanished. You only have a view now of the houses. And unfortunately, for many, the site has now long been unknown or forgotten as entire generations of early Bridgeport families have either died or moved away from the city. The Connecticut Post newspaper reported in 2007 that the conditions at St. Augustine Cemetery, a nearly 6-acre site, has long been a playground and dumping ground for some city residents. In fact, evidence of vandalism and improper activities on the cemetery grounds date back more than 115 years.
Damn. Do they just fucking hate these people? Who targets a cemetery?
Man, I just don't get it. They just did not fucking care. I don't know at what point in time this part of the area went downhill, but we're talking 115 years. I just didn't, in my mind, think that it had been that long. It just doesn't make sense. I can't compute, I guess, on that level. It doesn't work that way for me.
I don't think many people would have wanted to live next to that factory.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's true.
The noise, the incidents, so I imagine it's never been a popular area. So it's probably always been kind of lower income.
That's true. I mean, usually you're right. In industrial parks, nobody fucking wants to live around that shit. Nowadays it's big trucks. It's always dirty. It's people coming and going all the time. So, and back then, it wasn't big trucks, but it was fires and it was accidents and it was danger.
It was dangerous. I still just don't get how this is the pastime, to go and knock over fucking gravestones and act like a complete goddamn asshole. Is there nothing better to do? Come on. There's got to be something else. Get a bike.
You would think. Get a bike. I know, right? Oh my God. So back in the 1800s, a group known only as scoundrels. They entered the cemetery and pushed over as many of the headstones as they could possibly push over.
Do you think they did it because they didn't like the people, or are they just plain fucking assholes?
Going back to what I said earlier about the cemetery that I went to with Brandon, and it was the same situation there.
Yeah, right? I just don't understand why that's a fun pastime. You would think, or I would think, there's got to be some kind of logic to it. They hated all these foreigners, and that's why they're going in and disrespecting their graves. It's a hate crime, and then it doesn't make any sense with, what's happening to the cemeteries now. Leaving your fucking crust all over the cemetery. Clean up after yourselves.
Clean up yourself.
You know, it's one thing if you leave it one day because you think, oh, a squirrel will eat it. When you come back the next day and you saw no squirrels eating that, no bird was interested in your PB&J, then don't fucking do it again. Now you're littering.
Fuck you, sir. There's lots kinds of signs all over there saying, get your asses out of here before it gets dark. There's got to be no littering signs, too. Come on.
That's state laws everywhere. You're not supposed to do that.
Right.
Throw fruit and vegetables behind the house because I know that javelinas and shit will come and get it. But if I saw every day that they weren't eating my food, I would be like, oh, I guess there's just none around here.
They're like, skip Wendy's house. We don't eat that shit. She's throwing out gluten-free bread now. Come on.
Must be gluten-free bread.
Skip this house. Go to the next one. But check this out. So due to the damage and fear of further vandalism, the church ordered that many of the remaining stones be laid down as well on top of the graves to cease any further damage to them. But this was clearly a long-ass time ago. So now you can't even see where these people are. There's close to 2,000 people that are buried. And with the exception of these extremely large pillar-style cemetery marker gravestones, it looks like a bunch of pillars in an empty field. And it's weird. Now, the cemetery was cleaned up for the most part, and they put a fence around it. I think that the fence has been broken into several times, but it doesn't really look like anyone's going out there to vandalize anymore. So
they took all their fun away. They already just laid all the stones down.
They already did what they're going to do. So now I only tell you about this location because there's a local legend which says that a Hungarian woman had been buried in the cemetery alive. And I mention that because it's one of the stories you'll find while watching the Ghost Adventures episode or even while you're researching Remington Arms. It comes up from time to time. Now, I didn't find anything else about that story, and it seems like researchers have made their best attempt to uncover all of those that remain at St. Augustine Cemetery. So I think that the Hungarian lady might have actually been more of a local story made up to either add some spook to that location or very possibly to explain the cries that were heard actually coming from the factory. Now, the story says that the cries from the Hungarian lady can be heard coming from the graveyard. However, since the cemetery butts right up to that factory and so many disembodied voices and noises have been said to be heard in the factory, I think that the crying is legit, but that it might actually be coming from the factory and not from a buried alive Hungarian woman. But it's always very possible that there is a spirit in the cemetery as well that's crying. I mean, that's generally where you would be doing that sort of thing, in a graveyard.
Right. Can you get into the graveyard?
Yes, you can. I mean, you can actually access the Remington Arms if you want to. It's just, you got to be tough. You got to be tough, guys. You got to be tougher than me to do it.
Yeah, no, that whole running into the living that's hanging out in there, that's a bad idea. But no, I just thought that maybe they made that legend up about the Hungarian woman so that would draw people to the cemetery to paranormal investigate.
I don't know. You know what I found when I was researching this story was that the writer for Ghost Adventures, this episode, was Jeff Ballinger.
Oh, yeah.
As we know, he is like a New England paranormal historian. I don't know if that's a thing, if that exists. I'm just giving him that honorary title. He knows a lot of shit about ghosts in New England. How about that? So, I mean, like even when it came up in conversation with them there, I don't know if he wasn't able to find anything on it, and that's why they didn't explore it. Because during the show, Zach and Nick and Aaron, they're at the fucking library researching all the deaths that happened here. So if they could have found anything on it, I bet they would have. I mean, that's what they were there to do, was to research the story. So it could go any different direction. And again, I was just throwing it out there because if you decide to go and research this, or if you see the Ghost Adventures episode, you will hear about the Hungarian lady that is said to cry in the cemetery. So I at least want to let you know that I did my due diligence to try and find out more about her, and I didn't find anything. That's it. That's all that there was. So hopefully one day we'll know more, and the same goes for the factory. But like I said before, these places, they don't tend to hang around for too long. It's a blight on the city. They have to spend money to keep it up. They, have to patrol the place and keep people out of it, like, ghost hunters or, anyone who's just looking to find a place to stay for the night. And also they have to pay the firefighters to go and put out the fucking fires that keep popping up from time to time. It's an expense. So I wouldn't expect this to hang around for too much longer. So my advice is to get out, go explore these awesome places, and above all, like and subscribe to our podcast.
While you're at it.
While you're at it. Because these stories won't stick around, guys. No, I'm just kidding. Now, we will continue to bring you all the goods on these types of locations, as many as we can find, because that's what we love to do. So please just keep downloading our shows and, tell a friend. That'd be cool.
We got good stuff. And you can always offer suggestions as well.
Yes, absolutely. And don't forget to check us out on social media. All of the strange pictures that I shared with Wendy during this episode will be up on social media for you to look at, like, comment, share with your friends, whatever you want to do with them. If you want to search for us on Instagram, that is COTN_paranormal, or Facebook and Twitter, that'll be COTN Paranormal. We also make up some very fine product. Wendy makes these sweet stickers and t-shirts. So if you want to check out some of our goodies, or if you're looking for anything sweet to take with you along on your paranormal investigations, check out our stores. Just go to creaturesofthenight.paranormal.com and you can find not only our products and t-shirts, but some links to some of our own past adventures, workshops, and so much more. And that's all I got.
That was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. Like, when you mentioned the factory, I forgot it was in Connecticut. So I didn't know it was going to come up in your list of must-sees while you were there. But as soon as you mentioned it, I was like, shit, Ghost Adventures had been there. I wonder if she's going to talk about that at all.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember it mostly because I knew after they had investigated it, there was this huge fire that happened there. That seems to be a common event. But I didn't remember any of the evidence at all. So I appreciate this retelling of it. It's like I got to watch the show again. I don't remember that cemetery situation at all.
Oh, yeah. And it's cool.
That is cool. And you're right. You're so right. All these abandoned buildings and locations, we got to talk about them, and we've got to give people a chance to explore them before they're not there anymore. And yeah, some of them are not safe. You know, as much as you say, you should go check this place out and stuff, do remember it's in a bad neighborhood. It's not safe to be in the building necessarily.
Yeah.
But if you can find a way to do it safely, then it's always cool to check these things out before they're just not something we can do anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I mean, Danvers State Mental Hospital was sort of like the kick in the ass for me. Now, I mean, honestly, I have an excuse. I wasn't here when that place was still here, like as it was. So I came after the fact. But just knowing that place would have been an hour away and I could have seen it. I mean, I had to watch the movie Session 9 just to really get a visual on what it used to be. I don't want that to slip through my fingers again. So, you know, I can't go into these buildings. I don't have the guts or the masks.
With that, and it's, you know, who might be living in there. You don't want to encroach in people's areas when they're not expecting you.
Surprise, I'm a ghost hunter. No, seriously, I'm just hunting ghosts.
Surprise. You know, you don't go even knock on someone's door without telling them that you were going to come over. It's just, you got to do this safely, but it is such a good thing to do, to remember these places and to spend a minute really experiencing them before they're not there anymore. Yeah. It's so funny that you bring that up too, because just this week I had someone message us and they had asked if we knew how to get in contact with the people for Sidamsville Rectory. And I was like, oh no, honey, if you listened to our podcast, you would have heard.
Just send her a link.
Yeah, you can't get in there anymore from what I understand.
Yeah,
and
right.
So I let them know that. But then there's that thing, you know, people have missed their opportunity for now to get in there. We don't know what will happen in the future, because also this week I noticed that the Wasika Wonder House is back open for investigations. We had gotten to do, it was one of our first like public, you know, paranormal big time investigations we had ever done. And then some years after that, the guy was like, I'm good. I got to renovate the house. I don't need to do these paranormal investigations anymore. And he closed up shop and they just opened it up again.
That's awesome. I know when you sent me that link too, I was like, are we going? I mean,
no, it's one of those things you think, it's just, I missed my chance. But I don't know. Sometimes they open back up when they don't get demolished and have a whole new apartment complex be built onto them, like the Danvers Hospital. But I thank you so much for telling this story. It was a cool revisit, I guess you would say. I'm so jealous that you got to see all these places like firsthand.
Sick. Wait till you see these pictures. And I took some video too, because I was like, my mind is blown. I can't believe this is actually happening. Like, I mean, honestly, I could have gone and touched these buildings, but my husband wouldn't let me. So, you know, it's good to have that safety net, because I would do some really dumb shit.
And walk away with lead poison.
Right?
Yeah.
He had said, you know, if Wendy was in town, I wouldn't, you know, have gone with you. I feel like you guys can get into trouble on your own and you guys can figure out how to get out of it. He said, but I don't know about you by yourself. So
I really appreciate that he, you know, trusts me with you. He shouldn't. Because I'm the first one to be like, the cops will understand. It's fine. But you go first.
I know. Well, good. On to abandoned buildings we will go. Maybe. Good. I'm so glad that you liked it. I hope that you guys that are listening liked it too. Again, we thank you for always tuning in to listen to us. And I bid you farewell.
Bye.